From the beautiful Finger Lakes region of upstate New York, this is the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. We take questions from anyone in the dental profession and discuss what it takes to win not only in dentistry, but in life. Business, leadership, relationships, parenting, health and wellness, money management, nothing is off limits on the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. I'm Jason Tenori, your host, and have over 20 years of experience to pull from. Learn from my mistakes and let me help you collapse time so you can become the best version of yourself. Yo, Dr. Deacon here at the Lighthouse Podcast, and it's Thursday morning in a deep work block, content creation, and something's been on my mind and on my heart, and I wanted to share it with you guys. So yes, you guessed it. This is a solo rambling, solo musing. If you are a fan of these episodes, then hang out. If you're not a fan of these episodes and you'd rather have me interview somebody, then give me a call and I'll interview you. All kidding aside, I do feel like we've settled in a good spot of solo episodes versus episodes where I bring on guests and we unpack some, real life crap. But anyways, I felt called to create this recording based on a Zoom call that I had with an experimental group that I'm working with. This happened a few days ago. So for the longest time, my coaching clients, both one-on-one and the ones in the group, have been asking me, Jason, can you put together some type of mastermind for non-doctors, for the OMs, for the regional managers, for the operations people, for team leads? And it's one of those things that I always had in the back of my mind. I'm like, yeah, I think that'd be cool to do. And you just never get around to it. Well, anyways, we decided to do a pilot run. And it's basically run by me, my flagship office manager, Megan, and my director of operations, Amy. And we decided we'll try it for 3 or 4 sessions and see if I can over deliver value and see if it resonates and see if the people that are part of the mastermind really benefit from it. And if all those boxes get checked, we'll keep doing it. But if they don't, then we'll table it. Anyway, so we had our session Tuesday, and we talked about a core principle that you've probably heard me talk about, but sometimes I feel like really important stuff just needs to be repeated over and over and over again. And I'm going to do that today with you guys. I also admit that I think very binary. It's a strength and a fault of mine. And this is more of a binary, a black and white perspective, because I think at the end of the day, a lot of us that lead people, we tend to bring more drama, garbage, BS to the situation when at the end of the day, if we kind of strip it all away, we're just left with what I want to share with you guys today. So one of the things that we talked about in this group was, at the end of the day, when someone is disappointing us, someone on our team is disappointing us, or we feel they're not a good fit, or we feel they're not doing their job, or fill in the blank, right? I really believe that it comes down to one of two things. They're either not accomplishing or meeting expectations of the roles and responsibilities of the seat that they're in. That's one reason. The only other reason is they're not a core value fit, or they're not adhering to the behavioral principles that hopefully you have outlined in your organization. Now, we can dress all that up and we can put lipstick on a pig and we can come up with other excuses. But at the end of the day, it's one of those two things. And it's our job as leaders to identify which one or both it is, coach up on that particular gap, and then either check the box that we were successful or check the box that we were not successful and let somebody go. So I want to go down a rabbit hole on both of those just to give you some clarity on how I believe you should be thinking. Let's start with core values first. So you need core values. And again, for my younger listeners out there who maybe are more concerned with driving revenue or the metrics, the data. And again, I'm a data guy, but it took me too long to realize that not having well documented core values in place was a mistake. So I believe that you need to have core values anywhere from 3 to 10. These are guiding principles. These are behaviors in terms of how you expect the team to behave and how you should be behaving. So the first thing I need you to do is go through the exercises, and I have other podcasts on this, and I can send you information on the exercises, but go through doing the work of coming up with your core values. That's the first thing. The second thing is don't just have core values by name, like humility, like team player, like um, professional excellence, but really unpack what that means in your world. Write a 3, 4, 5 sentence paragraph on what each one means to you. So you remove the ambiguity of what humility is. Humility to me can mean something very, very different to one of my team members, right? The only way that we remove that ambiguity is if I define it well, define the core value well. So the first thing is to list them. The second thing is to define them. And then the third thing is to make sure that they're just not put on a poster or on the back of a t-shirt that's never talked about or that just is collecting dust. You have to make sure that this is top of mind literally all the time. So the team understands that these are very, very important to you. These are guiding principles that you want to run your organization on. And there's so many different ways to do that at quarterly meetings, at monthly or weekly meetings, at one-on-ones, at morning meetings. If you have any type of communication tool, WhatsApp, GroupMe, Slack, Teams, all of these things, like constantly talking about it on there. And there's ways to do that where you're not being over the top, but you're definitely getting the message across. So that's the core value side of it. And if someone is disappointing you, if you're frustrated with someone, you have to identify, is this a roles and responsibilities issue or is this a core value issue, right? That's the first thing. If it's a core value issue, if they're not living, breathing these principles at work a majority of the time, nobody's perfect, but a majority of the time, then it's up to you to have a conversation with them, minute meeting, into the store meeting, when your next one-on-one is with them, and just be crystal clear about this is how they're currently behaving. This is the framework, or this is the backstop of how you expect them to behave, core values. Make sure that they understand that there's a gap in what's expected of them behavior wise and how they are behaving. And then coach them up to reduce that gap or to eliminate that gap. And then revisit that conversation with them either on a daily or weekly basis until they either get it and improve, or until they don't get it, don't improve, and you ultimately free up their future and they no longer get to be a part of your team. So that's one of the two options, right? Core values, roles, and responsibilities. The core value issue is a team member issue, assuming you've done your job and you've clearly defined and articulated what the expectation is, clearly defined and articulated how you expect people on your team to behave. So if you've done that and the team member is not behaving in that way, then that's a them issue, team member issue. It's your job to coach them up. All right, let's flip the switch here. Let's look at the other side. The roles and responsibilities of the seat that they're in. This one's a little bit more nuanced, but again, at the end of the day, I think it's way more black and white than people want to admit. So, what seat or what hat is this person in? Are they a dental assistant? Are they a dental hygienist? Are they a treatment coordinator? Do they wear multiple hats? Do you have someone at your front desk that is a treatment coordinator and they're responsible for insurance verification and they do this and they do that? Let's just rewind the tape here a second and remind you guys that every dental office, no matter if you guys have 4 or 5 employees or 40 or 50 employees, has the same number of hats or seats, right? There's an HR hat, there's an IT hat, there's an insurance verification hat, there's a revenue cycle management hat, there's a AR hat. I mean, there's all of these hats, right? The smaller you guys are, the more hats that individuals wear. So you might have someone at the front desk that wears the treatment coordinator hat, wears the scheduling coordinator hat, wears the insurance verification hat, right? And that's not uncommon when you're small. What is common is for the leader, i.e., you, to not clearly articulate what are the roles and responsibilities associated with wearing that hat. So I don't care if we're talking about an individual that wears one hat, like dental assistant, or one hat like HR, or wears multiple hats, like the example that we just talked about. If they're wearing those hats, they need to know they're wearing those hats, and it needs to be clearly communicated to them what are the roles or responsibilities associated with that particular seat or wearing that particular hat. Now, everyone's going to be a little bit different, but there should be about 5 to 10 roles and responsibilities associated with each seat. And within each of those roles and responsibilities, there should be checklists or task lists that you should be doing daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly. We even like to break it up as to multiple times per day. These need to be done in the morning. These need to be done in the afternoon, that type of thing. So if someone's not doing those things, if someone's not meeting your expectations on the seat that they're in or the hat that they're wearing, instead of looking at them, I need you to look at yourself first. Have you clearly articulated to this person that you're disappointed in, to this person that is not meeting the expectation in your mind? Have you clearly articulated what is in fact expected of them? There's a couple ways to do that, but I'm going to explain a very simple framework that has worked extremely well for me. If you have a situation where a particular team member is not performing a particular role or responsibility or task associated with the seat they're in, I want you to have a minute meeting, into the store meeting, at the next one-on-one. I want you to find the time to do this, right? And we always come at these conversations from a position of empathy and curiosity. We're never adversarial. We're never getting on a soapbox. We're never using power as our leadership tool. And again, power is like, do it because I told you so. Do it or else. Do it or you're suspended. Do it or you're fired. We're never using power. We're using authority or influence. So let's create a fictitious example. Let's say that you come to the realization that your schedule is open and you've identified it's because treatment that you've presented that has not been scheduled has not been followed up on, right? You've looked in the practice management software notes and you see that you presented a crown for Mrs. Jones 6 weeks ago and there's no documented follow-up. So again, who's responsible for the follow-up, right? Let's assume it's, in your mind, let's assume it's Mary, okay? So you go to Mary during a one-on-one and you say, hey, Mary, I need to talk to you about something that's been bothering me and I want to get your take on it. I had a chance to look through Mrs. Jones's chart. I see that we presented a crown out of hygiene about 6 weeks ago, but I don't see any documentation as to why she didn't schedule and any follow-up as to how we're going to get her scheduled to have this dentistry that she needs. Can we talk about this? Oh, of course, yeah. The first question I'm asking Mary is, are you aware that follow up on outstanding treatment is your responsibility? And this question, again, when I talk about this with my coaching clients, sometimes I get some eye rolls, but because you, as the owner, think that Mary knows this is her job, that doesn't necessarily mean that Mary knows this is her responsibility. And more often than not, in my own organization and outside of it through my coaching clients, the answer to this first question is no, I wasn't aware of that. And why is that? Most likely because you had a training or onboarding issue and it wasn't done well, or also likely you never completely outlined the roles and responsibilities of Mary for Mary. You just threw her at the front desk. You told her to observe Julie for a day, and then you told her to get to work, right? So the first question in any type of accountability framework that I coach is, were you aware that this is your responsibility? If the answer is no, then you have some work to do, right? If the answer is yes, Mary says, yes, doc, that's on me. That's my responsibility. Okay, next question. I appreciate you owning that, Mary, that it's your responsibility. Do you feel like you are well trained, have the tools, have the systems in place to predictably follow up on outstanding treatment? Again, a very simple question, very black and white. Mary could be aware that's her responsibility, but have no idea on how to actually do it or what systems you want her to utilize in doing it, or needs more training, more role playing, all needs more tools in order to do this correctly. And because she doesn't have them, she's just been kicking the can and not doing it. So again, let's review. First question, were you aware that this is your responsibility? Second question, do you have the training, tools, resources, systems in order to do this task the way I want it accomplished? And Mary will say yes or no, right? If she says yes, then we move on to the next question. If she says no, just like if the answer to number one was no, then you have some work to do. You have to unpack, and this is what servant leadership's all about, right? You have to unpack what needs to happen in an effort to make sure Mary understands how to do this task. Training, systems, clarity on winning, those types of things. But let's assume Mary answers yes to question one and yes to question two. The next question is, do you feel you have enough time in your day to accomplish this task? The answer is either going to be yes or no. If the answer is yes, we move on. If the answer is no, then we need to, again, hit pause and have a conversation about, well, why is that? Is it because you're overwhelmed? Is it because you're wearing multiple hats or sitting in multiple seats? Is it because you don't understand where this task falls on your list of priorities, right? Perhaps Mary is doing things before this particular task that, yes, are on her checklist, but are not nearly as big of a lever puller. Is that even a phrase? Lever puller? Not even impactful as following up on outstanding treatment. So it's your job, again, as the servant leader or the OM's job or the front desk's lead job in this situation, whatever your accountability chart looks like, to make sure Mary understands how important this particular task is compared to the other tasks. And you can't simply make a blanket statement that says everything's important. You need to get everything done, right? On some days that can happen, but on other days, when you get stuck in the whirlwind, you don't have enough time to do everything. So what needs to be done first? Make sure that that's communicated to Mary. And then the final question that we always ask, and this is more of a nuanced question, and this is a question that the leader has to ultimately ask. If you've attained clarity that this is her job, if you've can honestly say you've given her all the tools, all the roles and responsibilities, or all the resources, all the training you've poured into her. And she also says she has enough time to do it. So her priorities are right. The final thing that we need to actually ask is, does Mary have the competency to perform this task? In our people analyzer, we talk about GWC. Does Mary get it, want it, and have the capacity to do it? That's one of the things that we think about when we talk about right person, right seat. So I want to talk about capacity to do it or competency to do it. So Mary may check the boxes on all these other questions, but if she can't emotionally, mentally, physically do the work, she can't do the work. She's in the wrong seat, right? And it's not as easy as you may think it is. Maybe Mary is an extremely introverted person. Maybe it brings her a tremendous amount of anxiety to make these follow-up calls. I've had situations in my own organization where I've put people in seats that are very data-driven, analytical-driven, looking at the patient's ledger and trying to understand insurance adjustments and where balances come from. That takes a specific skill set, right? It takes a specific amount of focus. It takes a specific amount of mental energy. And there's some people, really myself included, like I lose focus. I could not do that job predictably on a day-to-day basis. So if I'm going to someone that's in like a revenue cycle management seat and they're looking and I'm going through this rubric, they may say yes to all the things. But if they're still not accomplishing the task, I have to ask myself, is this in their skill set? Are they genetically wired to do this kind of work? If you want to flip the script, if you have like a greeter position, someone that's like bubbly, big smile, so glad you're here, right? But you put someone in that seat who is an introvert, who has RBF, like that's the job, the seat doesn't call for that, right? So you made the wrong hire or you put the wrong person in that seat. So those are the two things, right? At the end of the day, and again, we went down a rabbit hole on both of them, but at the end of the day, if someone is not delivering, if you're thinking about someone consistently on your way home from work, or when you're sitting at the dinner table with your family and you have a team member that's like on your mind because they're not meeting your expectations, don't just make ambiguous decisions. Don't just throw them against ambiguous frameworks. Look at them from two specific lenses: core values and roles and responsibilities. From a core values lens, make sure that they're listed, defined, and the team is well aware of them. From a roles and responsibility lens, make sure that you've trained them well, onboarded them well, supporting them well. They understand the ability to manage tasks throughout the day from a priority perspective, and they have the competency to manage the particular tasks that you're asking them to. Again, I've been accused of kind of dummying things down, but at the end of the day, 99% of all the issues that we have with team members can fall into one of those two buckets or both of those buckets. And then it's our job as leaders, as owners, to coach them up or coach them out. Or if they're a good core value fit, coach them up or move them to a different seat on the bus if they're not able to do what they're currently asked to do. All right, guys, that's everything. Appreciate you sitting with my musings today. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. My contact information's on the website, thedentallighthouse.com. If you want to get on the podcast, if you just want to set up a call to have some questions answered, if you're interested in coaching, something like that, give me a buzz. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. That wraps up another episode of the Dental Lighthouse podcast. You have a choice today. Choose to be a lighthouse. Lighthouses are powerful and steadfast. They are beacons of light for others to reference when life gets turbulent. Go out into the world today and become a lighthouse for someone. Give more than you get. True joy comes from serving others. Start today. I'm Jason Tenori, your host. Thank you for listening to the Dental Lighthouse podcast. For more information, podcast show notes, or links to anything that we have discussed today, please check out our website, thedentallighthouse.com. We would love to hear from you. If you would like to get on the show, please email us at podcast@thedentallighthouse.com.